So you keep failing the NCLEX and not quite sure what to do? Well, stay tuned because I'm going to give you some options on what you can do to most likely pass the NCLEX the next time. And I want to share a story with you. It's about a story that I heard a while ago on somebody who was also struggling with passing the NCLEX. Now, this particular nursing student actually took and failed the NCLEX over 20 times. Yes, you heard me correctly. Over 20 times. And it wasn't until her 22nd time that she finally passed the NCLEX. Now, this particular nursing student, it took her about 30 years from the point she started to when she was actually able to pass the NCLEX and actually be able to practice as a nurse. Now, you might be wondering, what is the point of me telling you this? Am I saying that it's going to take you that long to pass the NCLEX? No, not at all. Actually, her story is very unusual. What is not unusual is that there are plenty of students who are going to be in the same boat you're in that might fail the NCLEX once or maybe even twice, and it's not until maybe the second or third time that they finally are able to pass the NCLEX. And you do have situations that come up from time to time on students who they might fail it a couple more times before they finally are able to pass it. So it's about keeping things in perspective, not giving up, and knowing that even though you might hear from a lot of your, former classmates and whatnot about how they passed the very first time, that you are not alone. And there are plenty of students who do struggle to pass the NCLEX the first time or the first, second, or third time. What can you do differently to actually be successful? The first thing you need to think about is to try to understand why you might be failing the NCLEX. I think so many nursing students will just keep jumping back in and keep retaking the NCLEX without actually thinking about why they keep failing. For instance, is your problem because you're working so much and you're not getting a chance to study? Or maybe it's because you never really mastered the material in nursing school. And so when you never really got a firm grasp on it. And so as you keep studying, you just have never found what works for you. And so essentially you're studying the exact same way and not getting the results. The second thing to think about is that there are so many nursing students who will go through and take the NCLEX without getting an NCLEX prep course. Now, to be fair, there are plenty of students who will go and not get a dedicated NCLEX prep course and will actually pass. So that does happen. But for those who struggle passing the NCLEX, one of the main things I would actually start looking at is look at getting an NCLEX prep course. Or if you did get an NCLEX prep course, start asking yourself, did you get a good NCLEX prep course? Are you using it the way you're supposed to? I think there's a lot of NCLEX prep courses out there. And unfortunately, from what I've seen, most of them aren't very good. Some of them are just mediocre. And then you have, some of the good ones on the market. And really, a lot of the good ones on the market are probably your mainstream ones, the ones that you and probably most of your other classmates have seen or heard about. I do understand that many of those NCLEX prep courses are not cheap, but in a lot of cases, you do get what you pay for. And so I would highly encourage you getting a good NCLEX prep course. The third thing I would encourage you to really take a look at or consider is by getting a tutor. Now, a tutor is going to be more expensive than an NCLEX prep course, but I think a tutor is the route you need to go if after thinking about why you keep failing, then you determine that it's because you haven't really mastered the material or you just don't know how to study. The next option is to make sure that you understand what your repeat options are. Now, this is if you are the student and you have, you failed a couple of times, or even if you failed after your first time, is really just understand what your options are, because while there is a general kind of guideline on you can't retake the NCLEX more than 8 times a year. And, you have to wait about 45 days in between each exam. Depending on your state, you might have some more restrictions with that. So you definitely want to know what your options are as you just kind of go through and start planning on what you're going to do and when you can retake the NCLEX. Now, I know this is going to be hard, and part of the reason why I began this by sharing that story with you of the nurse who it took her, over 20 times to finally pass the NCLEX, is that you're going to be tempted to lose faith and give up. And what I want to encourage you is to don't lose faith, don't give up, and just keep pressing on. If your dream is to become a nurse, just don't let this hiccup stop you. There are plenty of excellent nurses out there who have failed the NCLEX a couple of times and have gone on to become stellar nurses.